Food's supposed to be fun. That's sexy, you guys. Yeah, I think that society has a negative relationship with food. What's up, guys? Happy Monday. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Daria. We're gonna have a nice, cozy chat today about a relationship with food and what that means. I feel like this is something that we hear all the time. Oh, I have an unhealthy relationship with food, or I healed my relationship with food. Actually, I did a video on that a couple videos ago, but I wanted to sort of clarify because I think that a lot of people don't necessarily evaluate what their relationship with food is like, or even maybe understand how to go about doing that. So today's video is about what a relationship with food is, what a healthy relationship with food might look like, what an unhealthy relationship with food might look like, and how you can evaluate in your own personal life what your relationship with food is like. I also want to give you some strategies to work toward improving your relationship with food. And a lot of clients, when they sign up for nutrition coaching, come in with that goal of improving their relationship with food. That's a really common one. And so I think that it's really important. It was definitely something that was massively transformative and helpful in my own life. Yeah, let's just get into it. Grab a coffee, grab a pumpkin, and let's chat. Everyone has a relationship with food, whether it's something you actively think about or not. We all gotta eat or we'll die. So everyone has a relationship with food. This is universal. And the first step to improving your relationship with food is to understand it. This goes for anything, really. Understand it first, and then you can work on it. Your relationship with food can either enhance your life or detract from it. Does food trigger anxiety or stress for you? Or does food make you feel joyful and nourished and happy? The way that you interact with food, the amount of time and space that it takes up in your life, and the emotions that come up surrounding food. That would be sort of like my definition of what this is. I think that there's always something that could be better. Nothing about this is prescriptive. There is no beautiful package that is a healthy relationship with food for everyone. My version of a healthy relationship with food is going to be different from your version of a healthy relationship with food. And this is something that is so important to understand and something that I think is often overlooked. Okay, so what might a healthy relationship with food look like? A healthy relationship is one that's sustainable, that enhances your life and adds to it, contributes to it in a way that makes you feel good, not bad, stressed, or anxious. I think a healthy relationship with food is often about balance, about finding the space for foods that you love and foods that make you feel good. Making space for what makes you feel good in more ways than one. When we think too much about the nutrients in the food, yes, this is important, but it's also about enjoying the food and food that tastes good. Because food's supposed to be fun. Connect your nutrition knowledge to the positive effects that it has on your body. So that mind-body-food connection is so important. There's an awareness of how what you put into your mouth makes your body feel. I think that's something that really defines a healthy relationship with food. The next thing that I would say, bullet point, healthy relationship with food, probably, is that food triggers little to no anxiety for you in your life. It's something you feel really confident in your choices about and like you have control over rather than it having control over you. The next thing is awareness of hunger and satiety cues. And this is something that I talk about a lot. I think a lot of us have forgotten to listen to hunger because we're bombarded constantly with food marketing. It's everywhere. And it's so hard to navigate this environment in North America, in the United States. But getting aware of when you're actually hungry and when you're actually full, I think is a big marker of a healthy relationship with food. A healthy relationship with food looks like considering food your friend rather than your enemy, because it is. We need food. We love food. I think it's easy to look at our relationships and think about them in terms of extremes. So I think that it's sort of a common misconception that people think that if they don't have an eating disorder, then they don't need to improve their relationship with food. Or in terms of like alcohol, you know, if you're not an alcoholic, maybe you don't need to evaluate your relationship with alcohol. I think everyone can evaluate their relationship with food and with alcohol, with anything. And I think that it's healthy to evaluate those relationships in your life regularly. So that's another thing. That's another marker of a healthy relationship with food to me, is to evaluate it regularly and remind yourself that it's okay if it changes. Because we are constantly growing, we are constantly evolving and learning, and what worked for you last year might not work for you now. The last thing that I want to say when it comes to having a healthy relationship with food is I think that you gotta really be confident in knowing what works for you. And don't let anyone tell you that what's working for you shouldn't be. You know, like, we're so judgmental of what other people are doing all the time. And we're looking at like all of these fad diets or dieting strategies or patterns or things that people adopt for themselves. And the reality is, if it's working for you, then it's healthy. We can look at any dieting strategy, anything really, and label it as an eating disorder. But it's only disordered behavior if it's affecting your life in a negative way or affecting your body in a negative way that's detrimental to your overall health, right? So don't let the judgment of other people or what you think you should be doing based on
diet culture
make you feel embarrassed or bad about what's working for you, because it's working for you. Yeah, I think that society has a negative relationship with food. So don't look at what society's doing as your blueprint for what's gonna work for you. Here's a hot take. I think that often people think that a healthy relationship with food needs to be one that's unrestricted. And yeah, I think that that is sometimes true. But also, I think that sometimes having certain restrictions in place can actually make you feel healthier and more in control when it comes to food choices. So to give you an example, for me, for a long time, I could not be within a 20-foot radius of peanut butter. So I just knew, for me, like, peanut butter is not something that I felt like I had any control over. Doing it in moderation, like, I didn't know how to moderate my intake of peanut butter. So I knew that like that just was not something that was healthy for me to have around. And just by like taking that off the table entirely, it helped me feel healthier about my relationship with food in general. I also think that if you are working toward a really specific goal and you've developed some restrictions around food that are helping you get there and that are making you feel really good and confident, and you're still healthy and you're still meeting all of your caloric needs and macronutrient and micronutrient needs, then great. Those restrictions don't necessarily need to be there always. And again, that comes back to that sort of flexibility factor, right? Where eventually you might be able to reincorporate some of those foods and it'll feel great too. For me now, I'm fine with peanut butter, but it took first that restriction of it in order to help me feel more free. So just remember, like, this is a process and it's not something that happens overnight. Developing a healthy relationship with food takes time. It takes work. It's not this like romanticized quick fix Cinderella story thing that we're all obsessed with. It's about behavior change. It's about developing habits that support you. It's about trial and error. And it's about hard work. And ultimately, that's sexy, you guys. The quick fix shit is not sexy. So let's get rid of that and let's start working actually on making a lasting change. There's nothing sexier than seeing somebody work for what they want and being really confident in what they know works for them. So if you're watching this video and you're still just like, Daria, I don't know still how to evaluate what my relationship with food is like, or like, what are the steps? How do I know? Here are some strategies that you can use to evaluate what your relationship with food is like. The first thing is to consider how much space and time, mental, real estate, and energy food takes up in your life? Are you constantly thinking about food? Is it getting in the way of you focusing on other things? Are you kind of obsessed with what the next thing that you're gonna eat is? Really evaluate if the amount of space and time you spend on food is proportional to the good benefits that you get from food, if that makes sense. Just really consider it. Like, how much time do you actually spend on food? The next thing that I would say is to consider the emotions that come up around food. Does food trigger anxiety, guilt, shame, any of these things that, again, I've talked about? Even in a small way, even if it's just like a little bit of anxiety, that's something to look at. And consider the emotions that come up with different foods also, and maybe in different food environments. Maybe like going out to a restaurant might trigger some anxiety for you. And that's not necessarily a negative thing, but just something to look at. Become aware of it. Because again, awareness is the first step to work and to healing. So here are some things that you can do to improve your relationship with food. Just some strategies that you can implement right now that you might find helpful. The first thing is to focus on what you can put into your diet that will enhance it rather than take out. Maybe the first step for you is to just figure out how to incorporate more nutrient-dense foods, more vegetables. I actually want to do a video on this, just like some easy ways to get to eat more vegetables and love it. But yeah, maybe that's the first step. Instead of focusing on, oh, I shouldn't eat this food, I've got to like be on this restrictive diet. Maybe not. Maybe the first thing is like, what can you add? What can you build on what you're already doing? Another strategy is to work on separating the voice in your head that's dictating your food choices from your actual voice. And a lot of the time, those two things are separate. The last thing that I want to say about strategies to implement is to sit down and define what a healthy relationship with food looks like for you, because it is so individual and it's gonna vary from person to person. Like I've said a million times, I know I'm a broken record at this point. But yeah, what does it mean to you? Write it down. Maybe people who journal, maybe just think about it, whatever works best for you. And then after you've defined what a healthy relationship looks like with food, think about what your relationship with food looks like now. Maybe write that down and maybe think about that for a little bit. And then figure out where these two things align. Where does your ideal healthy version of a relationship with food align with what you're doing now? And what are some goals and habits that you can build to get closer and bridge that gap? And this is the work, guys. This is the part that like maybe isn't always gonna be
fun and glamorous,
but it's important. If you're someone who finds yourself emotionally eating, maybe you've had a really stressful day at work, or sometimes it's just small irritations that can trigger us to reach for food as comfort. That's super common. But what are some ways, maybe you could take a walk instead, to just get a little bit more mindful and in tune with what's actually going on rather than to put a Band-Aid over it by using food. And this takes time also. This one's really hard, I think, especially because for a lot of us, it's really ingrained, it's really entrenched in our behavior pattern to reach for food when an emotion comes up that we want to either avoid, or we want to feel something different, or we want to feel numb to it. We reach for food. But think about some other strategies that you can have around that might make you feel better in the long term. So, I know that's a lot of information. I hope that you leave this video feeling a little bit more ready to evaluate your relationship with food, or maybe you never have before. Maybe you've never even thought about it. It might be helpful. Just take some time to think about it. This is a process. This does take time. And what's healthy for you is going to be different from what's healthy for anyone around you. Be confident in that. Be proud of that, because how cool. Like, celebrate yourself as an individual and the tools that you've built for your own life. Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's the video today. I hope that it was helpful. If you liked it, give this video a thumbs up and go down below and hit subscribe. Tick the notification bell to make sure that you don't miss a new video every Monday. I have some really exciting videos coming up that I'm excited for, at least. And leave a comment. If you have like a video idea or if something resonated with you in this video, let me know. I love to hear from you. Yeah, have a great Monday. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time.